chanting, start
blender. By the way, you know the funny thing is, every time I play international basketball, we play against Serbia, we playing against all these other countries,
Amazing
and they be in
fans.
there, all type of chants, and like going crazy.
Right.
No matter if they're up 20, no matter if they're down 20.
Welcome back to Mind the Game, presented by Uninterrupted and Wondery. We're still in Indiana, having a great time here discussing the game. This episode, we dug into the mid-range. It's so common for people to think the mid-range has left the game of basketball, which is actually not true. It's only part of the truth. So we talked about the positive and the negative of the mid-range and why the mid-range has never been more important. Now let's get to the episode. We hope you enjoy. You know, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the mid-range shot. We talk about it so much generally, right? We talk about it. I think the average fan knows like the mid-range shot's gone away, three-point shot in abundance.
Yep.
But like I'd like to dive into like some more like, if not truths, some context and like where are we with the mid-range shot? Why is the game gone the way it's gone? And I think we've talked about this. We've talked about this a little bit before, but like to start it off with some context, when I came in the league, I came into a team with 3 or 4 power forwards who couldn't shoot past the elbow, you know, that played on the block, right? The game was completely different. You know, nowadays those guys don't exist.
Right.
Those players are out of the league. They're either small ball fives or they had to be like more skilled playmaking perimeter players. So there's some context here. One, the evolution, okay? Why? Why did we go away from the 2 bigs, the power forward, throw it in the post, the center could be high in the parking lot the way the old rules were when I came in the league with guys lifted? You know, we took that out. We took out the lifted players, the illegal defense rules. Now the illegal defense 2.9 in the lane, a little bit more of a hybrid towards international college ball. We also changed the physicality. You know, people can no longer hit with the forearm, hold, you know, all the things they used to do. So now the game's faster, more fluid. You know, we talked about a little bit about our 7 seconds or less teams. We opened it up. We played 4 out or 5 out at times, you know, as a precursor. And I know they did that in Orlando with Dwight. Stan did that on those teams. And some of these teams started to figure out, like, we got to play differently. But really what's happened here is that now everyone, I think, the conversation largely talks about, for the average fan, we don't shoot mid-range shots anymore. We've taken them out. That's not true.
It's not true.
Role players don't shoot mid-range shots anymore. The role player in our league nowadays has to be able to guard multiple positions, has to be able to make threes. And it's a bonus and growing if they can attack a closeout and start the blender. So that is what's happened here. I'm going to make the argument now, and I want us to talk about this at length, that the mid-range shot has never been more important for your creator, because teams are obviously going to try to take away the rim and the threes. Okay, so let me think of a number now. Depending on your model, but a few years ago, I was made aware to me that just the numerical value of a mid-range shot. So the average points per possession. Like I think this year, the average points per possession of an NBA game for the entire league is like 1.14. There was like 14 guys in the league who shot 1.14 efficiency from the mid-range. 14, right? Out of 400 some players. So the value clearly is not a high-value shot, right? But really what that's saying is that it's not a high value for your non-creator, okay? So I want to talk a little bit about, like, teams know the number 1 value is a layup, number 2 is a free throw, number 3, really, probably offensive rebound, threes. All right, offensive rebounds because you got a chance at a layup, you got a chance at an and one, you got a chance at free throws, or
you got the chance of coming out of defense.
Defense is closing it, right? Threes. So for anyone who thinks there's too many threes, I'd like to know your take on this. That's never going away. And it's not because we don't take mid-ranges anymore. Like, think about it. Luka, SGA is going to have, Shai is going to have the best mid-range year of ever in the NBA. Something like 60% on like 15 mid-range shots a game. Like, this is likely MVP, if not number 2 MVP race, having an unbelievable season, and he is shooting more mid-range shots than anyone else. But the key is, like Giannis, who's picked up his mid-range game, Jokic, elite from the mid-range, KD, Luka, whoever these guys are, top players, what they are not doing is stopping driving the ball to the basket. So Shai still an elite, maybe the leader in drives, right? Same when push comes to shove, Luka, Jokic, trying to get to the rim.
Correct.
So it's not, I'm going to settle for mid-range shots. These are elite players taking the ball to the basket, taking threes, but the defense also is going to say, we can't let him get in there. What do you do now? So that's where these mid-range shots are never more valuable from your creators.
No, for sure. And the one thing about the creators, we're going to hit all 3 levels. And in order to be able to hit all 3 levels, it gives your teammates even more opportunities to do what they are out there to do. By either extending the defense to the 3-point. Okay, we're not going to, you're shooting 10 or 12 threes a game. Well, now we're going to extend our defense. We're not going to allow you to shoot the threes. But we're also going to protect the rim. But the creators in our game have always worked on mid-ranges, either if it's mid-range pull-ups, mid-range floaters, turning drives into back downs, to be in the mid-range. Like, for me,
even mid-range post-ups.
Even mid-range post-ups. You're getting a lot of guys in, your former teammate Dirk mastered the nail ISO, and at the time and when Dirk was in his prime and doing his thing, it was, I can get all the way to the rim. I can back you down from here, or I can face you up and shoot no dribbles, use all my footwork, use all my pivots, and I'm gonna keep the defense so at bay and off balance that it's always gonna work to the benefit of our team. And that's what it is. I think, like you said, the common fan will say there's no mid-range in the NBA anymore. It's just fast breaks, layups, threes, and free throws. But it's absolutely not true.
It's not true, and I think it's just important. And maybe this is something that a lot of people are like, that's obvious. But I think a lot of fans, it swings one way, no more mid-range shots. Like, where would the Knicks be without Jalen Brunson in the mid-range? Where would Oklahoma City be? That's the solve. That's the solve for people taking away the rim, taking away the threes. I think there's some numbers on Shai where he's elite in pick and roll. The number drops precipitously when they double him. So think about this. They're playing 4-on-3 now. They have a great team, right? They have a great team. They have guys that can put the ball on the floor, pass, shoot, make plays. Maybe this is largely when Jalen Williams is off the floor, but when he gets doubled, they go from to 1 point per possession from elite, right, or below 1 point per possession. So it shows that should lead to threes and layups when you're playing 4-on-3.
Yeah, for sure.
So his ability to exploit that space in the middle and still be elite is based on the fact that he is a 3-level scorer, like you said, and that without that, they're not efficient.
They're not the number 1 team in the West.
And you could say that about a lot of the top players in our league without them, because teams are going to take away the rim, they're going to take away the perimeter, the threes.
Especially in the postseason when things become even more dialed in and strategic about the game plan. And you have, throughout the course of the regular season, if you're playing against a certain team, you have a shoot around maybe, and then you have a pregame 20-minute conversation to prepare for a team. Maybe. In the postseason, you have days and days and days to be able to prepare and also be able to still prepare throughout the series. To be able to lock in on personnel, lock in on keys, lock in on what we want to try to make you do. So if you have these 3-level guys that can keep the defense, no matter what you try to implement, you take away the 3. I get to the mid-range, you take it away to the mid-range, I can get to the hole. You try to press up too much, now I can draw fouls. I can get the team into the bonus. So now when we start the blender, I've gotten our team into the bonus, we start the blender, now my teammates are able to be successful too off closeouts. Now they're playing the 4-on-3 game. Right. Like you said, if it's OKC and Shai's getting blitzed in the pick and roll, and you're hitting Jaden Williams in the pocket, or you hit Alex Caruso in the pocket, you're at the mercy. You know,
you're scrambling.
Yeah, if you're playing Boston and you're doubling Jason Tatum and you're hitting Jrue Holiday in the pocket, now this guy's
it's a point guard.
He's a point guard making 4-on-3 things he's been doing his whole career. 100%. So it's like it is very key, and the mid ranges I think is very, very key to the success of great teams.
For sure. There's another element of it that I think is really important also to understand is like the math is the math. Like I 100% agree that the mid-range shot is low value. Like I said, like let's call it like just a concept, but like if only 14 in the teens out of 400-something players are efficient versus league average per possession, it's not a high-value shot, okay? But there's a human element on both sides of the ball that I'd love to hear your take on. One, if you know, as most defenses do, we want to protect the rim. Right, we want to take away threes, run people off threes. But if Shai's punching your lights out with mid-range shots,
it gets frustrating.
You're human.
It gets frustrating as a defender.
You're human. And so what happens is you may not even leave the game plan, but you're leaning. You're thinking instead of being instinctive. And so there's the human element defensively, which I'd like to hear, how you can break teams a little bit by getting them out of their defense by picking people apart here. And then the other side of it is offensively. Like, a lot of players get their rhythm in the mid-range. You can't, and like I've talked to some coaches in the league who, have been in the league for, 20, 30, 40 years. And they always say, you always want to find a way to get your best players' shots. And a lot of times that's just spacing, get them go one-on-one, get to their spot. But how can you say, I want to get them a shot, I want to get them a bucket, and then say, oh, but by the way,
you can't take that one.
Don't do these ones.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do these ones. Like, could you imagine, when I coached, I would have loved KD to take 8, 10, 12 threes a game. And he's capable, just rising up over people. But he gets so much rhythm and confidence from the mid-range, and he's such an assassin in there. Like, it's a big change that you're probably not always going to net out on the positive, right? And you could say that about a lot of guys in our league, that top players, that they know hard dribble, feet set, up in the air. When you get that one to go, every other shot
their rhythm.
Is there, right?
It's their rhythm. It's their rhythm. You can't take away the guy's rhythm because the numbers speak for the masses.
Right.
It just can't happen. It just can't happen. And to go back to the first point, the first question as far as the defense, like, you have to be able to live with something.
Yes.
But definitely it takes
discipline.
It takes a lot of discipline. Like when you go into a game and say, okay, we want to give up contested twos. Like, if we give up contested twos and they make contested twos, then you tip your hat to them, and but it's just certain guys that are literally assassins at contested twos. Shai being one of them, DeMar DeRozan being one of them, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. These guys are.
Those are layups.
They'd much rather you contest than not contest.
Right.
It's literally their rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge for a player when you're guarding these guys and you say, shit, I just made him take a contested two, and he keeps making it.
Yep.
And you have to realize, you're like, I'm not making him take contested twos.
Yeah, right.
This is what he wants to do.
Right.
And you just gotta hope he misses. And you hope that you hope that it wears. You hope that it wears over time, to where, fourth quarter come around, maybe because you've been doing things offensively, maybe putting them in actions, maybe, being a little physical with them up and down the court, and you hope that towards the fourth quarter, maybe that contested two that was going through the first 3 quarters maybe becomes a little short. So it's definitely a mind fuck for you, as a defender.
And then also, at the end of games, the analytics, in many scenarios becomes less important.
Yeah.
Points are points. Points are points at the end of
bucket.
Games, right? Like, we're talking 2, 3, 4 minutes left. You don't have the opportunity to always pick and choose your shot profile.
No, you do not.
Right? Especially when the responsibility is on your shoulders to carry this team home. if you're finding space in the mid-range, which obviously teams are going to try to run you off the line. Teams are going to try to pack the paint at the rim. They're also going to try to spray out be on a string if you fire it out. So sometimes you as the lead guy, you have to have the confidence to stop, pull up, and make those shots, because a bucket is a bucket when you get down the stretch.
Yeah, so absolutely.
It's a very nuanced conversation.
It is.
It's a nuanced conversation. One of the other things I was thinking, and I think you're like, some ways, you can play many different ways. But the one outlier here, and I think you're like, at times your profile when you want it to be can mirror it a little bit, is James Harden. So when he was at his best, like it was rim, free throws, grip of free throws, fooling everyone. You know, unbelievable downhill ability with size, athleticism, his crossover, playing on the perimeter, the step back threes, and then the floater. Which, you know, like is debatable. Like some of those are probably mid-range shots, but he was so good at the floater too that he didn't take really, you know, those. Right. Like I can't think of many more. You know, at times Steph can be a little bit like that, although he'll never devoid. You know, he's just so good from three and running off, and then defense makes a mistake or overplays him, getting to the paint. You know, you can do that when you want to, but you also obviously love the mid-post or elbows, wherever you needed to play against a certain team in different eras even. Yeah. But it is fascinating to think like what it says to me is how hard it is to stick to that shot profile.
Yeah.
Like it's almost impossible.
It is.
Like James is like the one kind of outlier that lived off that. And no offense, because he's still great, but as he's not quite as explosive anymore, he's taking more middies.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does this all say to us about mid-range shot, right? Right?
Yeah.
How hard it was for him then, and what an outlier he was, shot profile-wise and efficiency, to now, when he's not quite the same athlete, still an all-star caliber player,
right?
But he's taking more middies, right? It shows, like, one, it's almost impossible to have that profile, too. And then, when you got to get your team a bucket, you can't just say, I'm not shooting these. So it goes back to, like the creator has to have the freedom to make and take those, or I don't think you can win.
Well, I mean, you just said it. I mean, you can't have the name of the creator if you're not going to let me create.
Right.
And that is, you can't give me a blank canvas, but then tell me you can't paint over in that corner there.
Right.
Like I can't be a full artist then. How can I fully reach my potential as a full artist if you're gonna lower me on how much I can use the canvas to paint?
This episode is sponsored in part by American Express. American Express has taught me that finding the perfect restaurant is a lot like finding the perfect play. It's all about timing, research, and sometimes a great recommendation from someone you trust. Being on the road so much, I've become pretty particular about where I eat. My ideal spot is usually a local-owned place that has great energy where you can enjoy an amazing meal while having a great conversation. Sometimes it's that new fusion spot everyone's talking about. Others, it's just a little spot a friend recommended. With Amex Gold, you earn 4 times membership rewards points on purchases at restaurants, on up to $50,000 in purchases per year. So you can get rewarded for dining at some of the hottest restaurants in town and earn up to $100 back annually on eligible purchases at U.S. Resi restaurants. Enrollment required. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex. You know what I love more than the perfect assist? The perfect story. And I've got just the one for you. Audible knows that there's no greater thrill out there than yours and Audible's gripping new original that'll have you right on the edge of your seat. Jon Hamm stars as Jack Bergen in The Big Fix, a Jack Bergen mystery. Think you know the story of Dodger Stadium? Think again. This noir thriller follows Jack, an ex-FBI agent brought back into the game by an old flame, to investigate a murder case that's not what it seems. What starts as a simple homicide investigation unravels into a complex web of conspiracy surrounding a Mexican-American community and the construction of Dodger Stadium. Trust me, this one's a game changer featuring an all-star cast, including Ana de la Reguera, Omar Epps, and Aaliyah Shawkat, with a special appearance from John Slattery. From the brilliant mind of John Mankiewicz and the director, Aaron Lipstad, comes a story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Like any great play, timing is everything, and now's the time to listen. Go to audible.com/thebigfix and listen now. That's audible.com/thebigfix. There's one piece of vocabulary or terminology that we use in the NBA that you may not be familiar with, and that is a three-level scorer. So essentially a three-level scorer who's someone who can shoot from deep, score from the mid-range, or score at the basket. I think that's all you need to know in this episode. Hopefully you learned something new. And of course, as always, I hope you enjoyed Mind the Game. Please like and subscribe. I think we both had this responsibility to close games. At the end of a game, you got to create for your team.
Yeah.
You want to feel in control, right? You know the feeling.
Yeah.
You know when you don't have it, when you're like, for whatever reason, the rhythm, the matchups, the defense, who they're not guarding, whatever it may be, throws something, a wrench in there. You're trying to find control again, right? That was important for me, was to be able to find control by finding a midi or two, finding the soft spot in the defense, getting some separation from someone, making it two, okay, I'm back. So the human side of the responsibility of your top players to win a game down the stretch, you want to feel in control. Can you talk about that feeling a little bit?
When you're not in control?
Both. Both.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we both have been, very blessed to be in that position to be in control of late game situations, games that come down to the wire. And it is definitely a great feeling when you, like you said, have that control and if I go to this set or if I run this,
or find this spacing.
If I get spacing, I know exactly how this is going to pill out. I know exactly how it's going to pill out by whatever action that I do. I know the reactions.
You win your matchup, and then there's a domino.
And it's a domino effect, and that's a beautiful feeling. And like you said, sometimes every now and then you out there and you like,
yes,
shit, it doesn't feel right.
Right.
It doesn't feel right either from I'm not in a rhythm or you might have a teammate out there that's not in a rhythm, but he's on the floor and you figuring, okay, where do I put him to be able to be best for the other three guys? Or the defense has been, they've been nagging me all game and I don't quite have a feeling, but still the ball is in my hand.
Yes.
I still have to make a play,
Yeah.
And it's like, where do you get it from? And you get it from past experiences.
Yeah.
You get it by trusting the work you just put in. You know that no matter what type of rhythm you've been in, what type of game you've had, that you mentioned earlier, the 10,000 hours have been put in.
Right.
Not saying that you're going to hit the game winner. Not saying that you're going to actually make the fucking play that makes you guys win. There's times where even with the 10,000 hours, you may have a costly turnover.
Yeah.
Plenty. Plenty. Yeah, plenty. You may, feel like, okay, this is the shot that I finally felt a good rhythm and I got my feet up underneath me and it didn't go in.
Yeah, you can have the feeling and not win.
Right.
But you want the feeling.
Right, you want the feeling. I would much rather have the feeling good and bad.
Yes.
Just give me the feeling.
Yes.
Let me try to figure it out. That's all.
It brings back a lot of memories. I think also when you have that responsibility, you build up enough scar tissue. You know that I can still make the play.
Yeah.
I can still make the play. I haven't made any, but that takes time. That takes mistakes. That takes failure. And it takes the mentality of I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to step up again. It's almost like you have to have wear that badge of honor. I'm willing to fail.
Yep.
I'm willing. I've had a terrible night. I still have got to step up and I fail again when it counts in this game and be able to go back in the locker room, hold your hand up, next game, ready to do it again. If you have that mentality, you build the scars.
No question.
You're able to overcome the tougher times.
No question.
Get right back out there. And then before you know it, I always felt like for me, there became a time in my career where close games down the stretch, it felt like a drug. You're on it, everything's vibrating, you just feel at home. Now we're really playing and you're almost like, you're a character, you feel powerful in a way.
This is what I've been waiting on.
Right?
The
rest of the game you're playing and you're competing, but then it gets heightened in those moments. And I think that has to be developed through time and scars and failure. And if you have the right approach, you speak a little bit about, and I know it's a little bit off the mid-range, but it all boils into the human element, the psychology of it, a little bit about your way of getting through the early part of your career. I mean, you had a lot of success early, but you definitely have failures when you're young.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing for me early on in my career was just the feeling of not wanting to let people down. I had to get over that.
100%.
You know, when you don't know quite how to handle that emotion, it's like, oh shit, if I miss this shot, I've let a lot of people down. Or if I make a bad play, I'll let so many people down. I think once I got out of that, and it took years.
Sure.
Like it took years for me. Like even like my second time in the finals, like my first year with the Heat, like I wanted to win so bad that I also had the fear of letting so many people down.
Yeah, I came here, we put this thing together, Pat.
And if it doesn't happen, I'll let so many fucking people down. And the hours that I put into my craft, the commitment that I gave to my craft wasn't even the thought which should have been.
Right.
It was more like, oh shit, if I go out and I make a mistake, I'll let them down. If I go out and fuck up, I'll let him down. Like, instead of just like going out there and just be like, who the fuck gives a fuck? They don't care.
Right.
You are in the position because of that. And if you do, so be it.
And you still feel bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get it done, but now you have the resolve to push through.
You have the resolve.
The next night I'm doing the same thing, right?
Exactly.
It's interesting. It's funny because I think, and I'm probably butchering this, but I think the Chinese call it a paper tiger. I think the Buddhists call it a double arrow. And it's basically, Mark Twain has this quote, like, I went through an awful lot in my life, and some of it actually happened. It's like our reaction, right? It's our reaction thing. So you're reacting not to all the work you've put in. You're reacting to the perception.
The perception.
Well, I don't want to let people down. I think we're similar in that way, whereas I think other people, like I don't think Kobe gave a shit. I think that's what part of his brilliance. I don't think Michael gave a shit. Like that's a part of their brilliance. In a way, other people, we had to get the scars through that stuff, right? And so I was the same way. I think you perseverate on the negative rather than I'm building towards something here. Right? I'm building towards something here. I'm putting in the time. Rely on the work. Don't rely on the perception,
for sure.
This false reality. And I think it's funny. I mean, we're getting into the mind here a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, mind the game.
Mind the game. But
no, I mean, but I agree. Like, it takes, the best teacher in life is experience. And it just takes time. It takes time for you to depend on. Everybody is a different individual. Everybody's mindset and the way we're wired, our wiring are all different. And it takes more time for certain individuals to get to that point, to be able to have that. You need the scar tissue built up and able for you to be able to persevere through.
That's right.
And it took me time, 6, 7, 8 years into my professional career to finally get to a point where even if I did kind of zone out a little bit, I knew, exactly how to I know how to get back in there. I know how to get back into the rim of things. It was a flick. I was
refocus right away.
Yeah, refocus. Oh, I've been there before. You've been there before. Okay, what is it that you can refocus? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think it took time for for me to get to that point. And but I think experience, man. We all will get to a point. For the younger generation ball players, when you guys coming up, men and women, you will know when that moment is for you, that it just clicks, and you be able to go about it that day, that night you playing.
You can always lean on that.
You can lean on that, and it don't matter if you win, lose, or draw that game. If you're put in that position the next night, okay, boom, I know what to do now.
That's right.
And if it don't go that way, okay, we play again in 2 days. I'm ready for that moment. We all get to the point where we feel it, we know it, and we know how to handle it.
How did you handle, I remember earlier in your career, you used to take criticism for not taking the last shot when you made the right play. Like, how did you handle that? Because that always bothered me. I was like, you could force something right now. He's drawn 2.5 defenders, or he can make the right play. Like, how did you navigate all the noise versus being true to who you are, which is a basketball player that plays with intelligence, feel, makes the right read?
I just stayed true to what got me to that point.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I was taught the game the right way as a kid, because when we won. We won. It worked. It really worked. Like, I realized that, like, when I got into the NBA, I won 3 state championships in high school. And when I thought it was something that, like, all NBA players did. I thought, like, if you were one of the best players in the world, or you're one of the best players on your high school team, like, you should be able to win a state championship.
Right.
And I got in the NBA, and there was a lot of guys that never won a state championship, that never won an AAU Nationals finals, that never won. And I was like, oh my goodness. I absolutely was taught the game the right way. And we all succeeded and have fun doing it. Like, it brought so much enjoyment to be able to play the game the right way. I never averaged more than 30 points in high school. I think my highest average was like 27, 28, I believe.
Sure.
I know for sure.
Because it wasn't about that.
Yeah, it wasn't about that. I could have averaged 50 points a game if I wanted to, probably my junior and senior year. But it was never about that. It was about, how can I maximize my teammates? How can I get the most out of my teammates in order for all of us to be successful? And we came here to win state championships, or we came here to win AAU tournaments and AAU national championships. Like, and I felt like in order for me to win ultimately in the pros, even though it's a different level, I couldn't give up the essence of what made me fall in love with the game and how I was taught. Even if the criticism, like, it still goes on. Like, it happened in the 2020 finals when I played in the finals, and, you know, I had an unbelievable game in one of the games to close out the Heat in the finals. And, you know, I drove the ball, 2 or 3 defenders came, and I found Danny Green wide open for a 3, and he missed it, and we went to a game 5, I believe, or game 6.
But you take it every time.
And I'll take it every time.
Yeah.
I take it every time. And people like, why didn't you take the shot? He should have took the shot. There you go again, passing the shot. Like,
never been there.
It's never, you know, it's one of the, you know, I don't know the quote verbatim, like, but Theodore Roosevelt,
headline,
you know, the man in the arena.
Man in the arena.
The man in the arena. It's like one of my favorite quotes about, you know, being mirrored with dust and everything. And it's always the guy that's not in the arena is the one that's the loudest and talks the loudest. But you've never stepped foot in an arena, so how can you ever challenge what I am doing? It's like,
you know what? It's a cool. I think I talked before about, like, the little ingredients along the way that make you who you are. You don't know why, but this thing ended up being really important later. It's like, you know, if you just look at your profile as a high school player, like, essentially biggest, strongest, fastest, most athletic kid out there. But you still were taught the game the right way and valued playing the right way. Because if you had just been score, you'd have never been LeBron James.
I would have never been who I am.
Right.
And I also don't think I would have played this amount. I would never play this amount of years either.
It's a great point in that you constantly are changing how you're playing. You don't have to have the ball all the time. Your numbers are like MVP caliber numbers, but it's not with the ball all the time.
Yep.
You're adapting and playing. Like, I don't think you can do that if you weren't someone that tried to play the right way all the time, or were single-minded on scoring. You know, one-dimensional. Right? There's many facets, many dimensions. I said it before with you here. Like, with Luka having the ball, you know, a lot of the time, your willingness to space intelligently, to cut intelligently, to screen intelligently, to play out the short roll, like, not everyone is willing or able to adapt in that way.
And that's what I hope that, like, a lot of the people get, you know, from our conversations, watching me play. Like, you don't have to be the leading scorer on the team, or you don't have to be the guy that's handling the ball all the time in order to make an impact. Or you can be that guy early on and then be able to have a growth mindset. Like, it's okay to still be able to make an impact at a high level and change your game over the course of time.
And vice versa, develop into If you don't play the right way, have the right motives, it's harder to evolve into a better player, a winning player. I think that's a big word, winning.
No, I agree.
Winning plays, winning player.
Winning players, yeah, for sure. Like, just having that mindset that I am willing to do whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, I am willing to grow and be uncomfortable in order for me to still be successful and be, you know, a thing on the team.
Uncomfortable is a great word. Like that's what, you know, or another way to say it is like, what are we avoiding?
Yeah.
Right. I think it's, as human beings, but also as athletes, like we should always be young players. Always ask yourself, what am I avoiding? Mm-hmm. What do I not want to do because it's uncomfortable? Because it's out of my comfort zone. It's not something I identify with. Yeah. Don't let your, you know, this perception of your identity ruin being a winning basketball player.
Yeah.
Right?
That was. Don't let your perception of what you think your identity is ruin yourself of being a winning basketball. That was a bar right there. We gotta have to put that shit on the hoodie. We got to put that on a hoodie right there. That was amazing right there.
Think it's good?
Yeah. Man, we are good. Some good shit rolling.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to get to do that.
Yeah, you got to do that.
I got to do that. You got to go rest. Put your feet up.
I'm going to get something to eat. I'm going to go to the hotel, kick my feet up.
There you go. Thanks for watching Mind the Game. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe for more content.